Guys, welcome to another lecture in the series of critical approaches to literature. Before we delve into the flesh part of this series, I wanted to say that in the first video I mentioned that the lectures are going to be divided into three categories, right? The philosophical inquiry, which will include the Platonic dilemma, Aristotle's solution, the poet as a moral teacher, imitation and instruction, the vindication of pleasure, science and poetry, the proper sphere of poetry, the poet and his medium, so on and so forth. Then part two is going to be about practical criticism, which includes stuff like the establishment of a critical scene, possibilities and limitations of a method, history, relativism, and impressionism. Then shifting perspective from appreciation to analysis, then analysis in action. Part three, which is literary criticism and its related disciplines, will include stuff like criticism and scholarship, criticism and psychology, criticism and sociology, criticism and the cultural context. Now, why has this been divided into three parts? It has divided into three parts based on both, of course, logic and convenience, and not convenience for myself, but for convenience people who will be taking these lectures. Because of the fact that part one will help you consider how various critiques have answered the question that what is the nature of imaginative literature, what is its use, and what is the value of it. Part two will help you deal with the practical critic, right, in different ways, in which specific works of literary art have been and can be evaluated. And then eventually, part three takes up all those fields of inquiry in which the literary critique touches other kind of investigations, such as the sociological and psychological inquiries, as well as the relationship between literary criticism, the work of literature, and the literary who may have criticized it, as well as the literary who may have produced it. Because when we talk about the ecosystem, there's always a thing, right, that that all organisms tend to be interconnected in the relationship with one another. When analyzing or critiquing or even understanding or reading a piece of literature, you need to keep that in mind at all times, which we don't technically, because when we start reading something, we just start reading it. We forget that it is also interconnected to everything else. And then again, one very common practice that all of us have is read a book once and then put it off or put it away. But that's not how you learn to appreciate it. You don't keep a book away. Obviously you put it back in the shelf or something like that of yours, but you keep it with care. And you need to probably read it from time to time to be able to learn to appreciate it. But right now, since this is a lecture and we're talking about exams, even for an exam, you need to reread something. After you've read a piece of criticism on it, reread it again. It'll make you see that from a different perspective. Then you read another criticism, reread it again. And that's how you will be able to better understand it. That's why with connoisseurs, people who appreciate fine wine and art and literature, that's what they do, right? They keep consuming it over and over again. They learn to appreciate it. Now, another problem which I feel, and maybe that's not a problem, but that if that was there, even people who are taking exams, literature exams today, or trying to study something, or even trying to read a novel or whatever, it may have helped them is that beyond these philosophers, of course, who've set groundwork for criticism in certain ways, because they've criticized the society or come up with theories regarding the society, and based on that, people have learned how to criticize certain things. But the people who actually laid groundwork to literary criticism, say Horace, Quintilian, Vida, they're names that we don't take anymore. They're names that we don't even probably all know anymore, because they've been forgotten over time. Maybe they've been forgotten, or the access to them is limited to very few people. Because not all of us have a membership to the Cambridge Library. It's as simple as that. So even if in the archives somewhere something like that is kept by them, some piece of criticism where they wrote the first criticism to a piece of literature, like say the Canterbury Tales, we don't have it. This is, I know that I don't know if this reference is possible actually, but even if they did, none of us have had access to it. Because the publicly available books are different. And then of course today misinformation is so easy that when you're especially studying for an exam in literature, it's like you are not entirely sure because anybody can write anything on the internet. And so the people who have actually laid that groundwork uh, in terms of forming the idea of literary criticism, we don't know that. Of course, they all have approached literature differently, or even back then when they have written about how to criticize a piece of literature or how they have criticized literature, and then a lot of writers, poets, everybody has followed pursuit and given their own opinions. Then people have started writing books. Today the internet has given everybody almost the power to become a literary critic, and so everybody is. But the methods that we're following today, if we were to be able to understand where they come from, then when we're reading a book and rereading it, it will help us be able to grasp concepts, be able to see things faster. What else do I need to cover in this lecture? Okay, yeah. In terms of the objective of this series of lectures, it is just to provide an aid to be able to study literary criticism so that it's easier to study literature. So that even in one read, you're able to grasp certain concepts. And then when you reread it, and you also after one read, so that you know that, okay, fine, yes, I need to reread it to be able to understand it better. Because we're all living in a world where everything is really quick, right? Somebody will send you a Snapchat, it'll come in for 10 seconds, 60 seconds, disappear. We're all living in that world. So we're also not technically all aligned with the idea of keeping a book safe. And safe to the sense that you will reread it again and again. And for an exam, that's really important. Because yes, websites will help you with summaries and stuff like that, but you won't be able to get into the nitty-gritties of it, which is really important for you to be able to construct a proper answer, which is where often students fail. Now, beyond that, I think that's more like it for this one. For this lecture, if you like the video, don't forget to give me a thumbs up as well as subscribe to the YouTube channel. And we'll start with the Platonic dilemma in the next lecture of this series. And the Platonic dilemma itself is divided into several sections, like the major critical questions, poetry and the moralists, all of that stuff. So I'd just say keep doing the tasks so that everything keeps making sense and you can keep up, because there's a lot that we'll be uncovering, especially in this series, where we're talking about critical approaches to literature. And if you're able to grasp this series, I feel, and if you're able to make sense of all the critical approaches to literature, it will help you understand all the other lectures better. And beyond that, even when you read a book next time on your own, you will be able to pick on so many things that you may have otherwise not picked up on, in that sense, that part. That's about it. If you like this video, again, saying don't forget to give me a thumbs up as well as subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you have any questions, guys, please feel free to ask them in the comments below.